So officially, the name of the parasha, the two parshiot which are connected this week are Achrei Mot Kedoshim. That after the death of the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, that they passed on, and they were on the highest level of holiness possible. In fact, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the holy Or HaChaim says that they reached such a high level that the Torah says that they were drunk. But what does that mean that they were drunk? The Or HaChaim says that they were drunk on spirituality. They were on a very high spiritual state, that they had an expiration of the soul. Their soul left their body. They had what is called klot hanefesh, that kalot, like from the word kala, right? Kala, like yearns. Nachatam's idea coming down, and they had klot hanefesh, nichsefa vegam kalta nafshi laHashem, and they went off, and they had a desire to just cling on to God. In fact, Moses and Aaron said that we thought that God was going to take us, because we knew that there was a certain punishment that was meant to happen, and it says B'krovaya Kadesh, those that are closest to me are going to be sacrificed, so to speak. And Moses and Aaron thought it was going to be us. And then they saw it was Nadav and Avihu. They realized that their level was in fact higher than even Moshe and Aaron. So that's how the parsha starts off. Achrei Mot starts off with this very high kind of like scene that we have the two sons of Aaron going off, and they were not just going off; they were going off to the highest levels, to the highest abode, of clinging onto godliness. But then a little bit after that, we get some other messages over there. And the messages are, it all of a sudden starts talking about the non-holy relationships that one can have.
I want to ask forgiveness, but I'm going to close my eyes, not because I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I cannot open them.
Okay, no problem.
I have to close, but
No
I'm
problem.
with you.
Not about, so it goes off, and it junctures into non-holy relationships, and it says a person shouldn't marry this type of person, and then shouldn't marry that type of person, shouldn't get into this relationship and that relationship. It goes into all these unholy types of relationships, and it says that you should not do like the Kamaseh Mitzrayim, like the way the Egyptians used to be. And the commentators explain that who are these Egyptians? What was the Maseh Mitzrayim? Maseh Mitzrayim were the lowest level of in the world, right? They were the most decadent society in the world. And we know that there were 49 levels of impurity, and they were on the 49th level of impurity. And if we would have been there even for one more day, we would have, we would have stayed there forever, like it says in the Haggadah, right? And from that place of 49 levels, it says that they were shtufim bezima, and the word for that zima, that they had the most unholy relationships. They were not faithful to one another. They had relations with just family members, and they had relations with animals. It was like the most really disgusting things that we could think of, right? But at the same time, it's something that we read right after talking about the death of Nadav and Avihu that reaches such a high spiritual level, especially if you understand really what it was. And now you're talking about this very lowly kind of situation that people are supposed to be in. It seems like such a jump. It seems like it's taking such a turn, and it almost doesn't make sense. And furthermore, the next parsha that we actually read is Kedoshim, is holiness. And over there it says Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy because I am holy. And then it goes into all types of very, so to speak, social type of things that people, you shouldn't steal, you should do this, you shouldn't take this, you shouldn't all these very mundane kind of things. So just kind of like to make sense of all this, because we've got these opposites, these contrasts that are hitting us like at the same time. And to be more specific, this is something that we read on Yom Kippur. This is something that we read every Yom Kippur, on the laning, the reading of Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. What do you read during the morning prayers? Achrei Mot, you read about the death of Nadav and Avihu. And in fact, the Talmud says that anybody that cries for the death of Nadav and Avihu, they feel the pain of, wow, these two great sages, two great tzaddikim, the sons of Aaron, who loved peace, right? He chased peace and everything like that. His sons died on such a high pedestal, on such a high level. If a person cries and sheds a tear for that, it says that all their sins are like forgiven, basically. And the Gemara actually learns from there also, just like a by sort of lesson, that anybody that cries for the death of a righteous individual feels that loss, that pain that is not there. Also says that they're forgiven for all their sins, because it shows that a person is really, they're into serving God for the right reasons, basically, and they're thinking about God, and they're thinking about what's lacking now when you don't have these holy people now in the world anymore. So anyway, so that's what the Gemara says, that a person cries for Nadav and Avihu, says that they're forgiven, etc. So that's what we read in the morning. And then in the afternoon services of Yom Kippur, right? That same Yom Kippur, we're supposed to elevate. We're going higher and higher and higher. Over there, we also read the Torah. So the Torah is taken out. And what's the reading over there of the afternoon prayer of Yom Kippur? The rest of the parsha over there, which talks about Egypt, the Maseh Mitzrayim. It talks about that. It talks about the illicit relations of a father marrying the daughter, and the daughter-in-law, and this and that, and the animal, and you're like, what? In Sodom, yeah, exactly. It was the same. That Egypt was in a way worse than Sodom, actually. Yeah. So I want to kind of talk about this contradiction that we're faced on the day of Yom Kippur, and we're faced on the day of the holiest day of the year, where a person fasts. They're supposed to be like an angel, and this is like the subject. This is the theme of the parsha, and something that we're living with, basically. And we're living kind of like these polar extremes. On the one hand, it's holiness, but then on the other hand, it's almost like this illicit relations, which is like the opposite. So how does it make sense? So there's a question: what is kedoshim? What is kedusha? What is holiness? What is holiness? When you ask somebody what is holy, people say holy means some person in the Himalayas, or some person on who maybe in Tzfat, I don't know, so something which is removed from the rest of the world, something which is it, right?
Holy is a person who can talk to God.
Anybody could talk to God. Anybody could talk to God. Now that doesn't make a person holy necessarily. Anybody could talk to God. And in fact, I'll tell you even more than that. Animals talk to God in a way even more than we do, in a certain way. They have a certain simple type of relationship. They were created, by God, right? In that way. And we're distracted by our mind, by our thinking. So talking to God doesn't necessarily make you holy. Holy, literally, kadosh means to be removed. Like kedusha is a prisha, lifrosh, like to be removed from a situation, to be removed from something. So, kedusha, to be removed. From what? Very good. So, what are we removed from? So, kedusha is basically the greatest sliding scale possible in the whole world. Kedusha, like sliding scale. You can have kedusha on the highest level, holiness, ki kadosh ani, kadoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani am holy. So you're like going to that extreme. Nadav and Avihu tried to reach God himself. Basically, they did not want to be in this world anymore. Basically, they just wanted to be connected to the source itself. They wanted the kedusha, they wanted to be removed from life, from the corporal world, right? That's all they wanted. So that's the highest level of kedusha. But then you've got the lowest level of kedusha, and this is something that we get, that the readings are about. That we get a situation that a person just has to stay away from cohabitating with their sheep. You're like, or a ox. You're like what? Why is that holy? So the thing is like this. The thing is, the explanation is why. First of all, why we read on Yom Kippur this specific thing. So the Talmud explains that a person, why do we read on Yom Kippur? The Talmud explains like this, a couple of reasons. First reason is that a person should never think that they are free of the Yetzer Hara, of the inclination for the self. They should never think that they're free. And in fact, it says that about Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol. He was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years. He was like the high priest for 80 years. And he left like the whole thing. He left like believing completely. And the Talmud says, how is that possible? And it says he's Yanai. He became another person. He was a heretic. It was like whatever. And the Talmud says a person should never believe in himself until the day of their death. The day of their death, once a person is like, whatever, down under, I don't want to be too morbid. But once over there, it says, okay, that's when the Yetzer Hara is like, that's it. Person can't do anything wrong, basically. But as long as a person is alive, a person is pulled by two extremes. By the extreme of coming up, being raised up by their soul, by their godly soul to the highest abode, to the highest level, and by their animal soul, right? The nefesh haba'amit, their animal soul, is pulling them down to the lowest level, right? Those are our extremes of life. And to think that a person on Yom Kippur, for example, that a person is like, oh, I've reached the highest level. I've reached, Yom Kippur. I've reached I'm a saint. I'm wearing all white. I'm fasting. I'm like an angel, etc., etc. Boom, right there. I'm above exactly any mistakes or anything like that. I've been atoned for and everything like that. It's like, no, you're a human. Meaning that a human means that you have faults. It doesn't mean you're a sinner. It doesn't mean it's different. Like Judaism is different. The Torah's approach is different than the other approaches of how a person is made. Person is made with basically these two souls, a godly soul and an animal soul. Meaning, it's up to you. The godly soul wants to pull upwards. The animal soul is not bad, but it wants to pull you down. And the animal soul could be utilized if you speak to the animal, if you utilize the animal soul correctly, then you could have a lot of power with the animal soul. Like the Baal Shem Tov says, if you shall see the donkey of your friend falling, of your enemy actually, you see like his animal's just like laying over there, and it's got all these weights on him. So it says you're supposed to help your enemy pick up the weights. So the Baal Shem Tov explains what is this talking about? It's talking about who's this chamor. Chamor is your donkey, meaning your materialism it's a weight and it's pulling you down. You've got like these weights which are pulling you down. But the Baal Shem Tov says, what should you do about it? You don't have to fast necessarily, or break the animal's soul and just like, and put it through, just pain, etc., things like that. No, it says you should pick up azov tazov. You could help the animal soul raise up, and in other words, work with your animal soul as opposed to subjugate it, as opposed to hurting it and bringing it down. Take care of your body. It has to be. You have to eat well. You have to. You have to exercise. You have to do all those things. You have to take care of your animals, of your animal, but at the same time, recognize that it's an animal, right? And its intention is to bring you down.
It's your son.
What? It's your son. Exactly. It hates you, right? So the Baal Shem Tov says that you might think, well, it hates me. What do I have to do back to it? If it hates me, I gotta hate it back, right? That's how a person thinks. Someone doesn't like me, I'm gonna do the same thing to them. So my animal wants to bring me down, I gotta hit it back. So no. The Baal Shem Tov says, Azov ta'azov imo. You have to help your animal pick up the weights and help your animal. In other words, you have to work with your animal self, right? As opposed to breaking it. So it's a very big difference in Judaism and Torah and in other religions, that a person is not born with a certain, God forbid, negative slate, right? Like it's in other religions. In Judaism, a person is born with actually a holy soul, with a great potential, but a very vast and a very strong animal soul. And the animal soul could, if you let the animal soul just be in control, then the animal soul is going to do its thing and bring you down, right? So
how did you translate? You said kadosh is removed.
Yeah, so kedusha is removed.
How would we say when we say God is removed? Ki kadosh Hashem.
Ki kadosh ani, because I'm.
So what is in?
So kadoshim to you, we're called upon to become holy. Why? Because I am holy. In other words,
what does it mean Hashem is holy? When we're translating it, removed.
In other words, your holiness comes from me, because I'm really removed. In other words, the commentators say that you can never become holy like me, like God. In other words, a person can never be a God, ever.
What does it mean he's removed?
Right.
Translation. What does it mean he's removed?
He's removed completely from being contained within the world. In other words, the world is not something that God is limited by.
Not limited.
No. God is absolutely not limited by anything physical or anything spiritual, for that sense. God is above the physical and above the spiritual. He's completely removed. And he has, like the Zohar says, Rabbi Shimon says at the beginning of Zohar, says that Bereish Hormonisa de Malka, at the beginning of the intent of the king, Galif Glifu B'tihir Eilah, that he made like a little mark, a little intention on the top of the divine will. And he had a certain intention. From that intention, the Zohar says, came the desire to create. And then God created, right? There's, what is called Malchus of Ein Sof, and then Ak, Adam Kadmon, and then we have the Keser, and we have Atzilus, and we have Bria, Yitzir. We've got all the four worlds until we have a physical world, which in this world, Rishayim Govrim, we have the other side is very dominant, and we don't have the direct light, let's say, right, or the clear light of Atzilus, of the highest world, or even Bria, or even Yitzira. The world of Asiya is just a very opaque light, right? And it's just everything is very, very much klipa, right? So this is what the Torah is telling us, that you should be very weary of these types of relationships, right? On the one hand, you've got the greatest holiness that you could reach, right? You could reach Kedusha, the greatest Kedusha possible, Kadosh Ani, Nadav and Avihu, but on the other hand, you could reach the lowest Tumah. And that tells you the reality of who we are. And it's just realistic. It's not saying like, oh, you're a saint, Kedusha, forget about the world, no. you have a reality, you have something within you, and right, that is animal-like, and the animal wants to go downwards, wants to be like contained within this world, right? But we're also not an animal. We also have a godly soul, and we have to work with our animal and to kind of like come to like a middle ground. So Hasidus explains that Kedusha could be achieved in two ways. Holiness could be achieved in two ways. And the first way is the way of the great holy people, the tzaddikim, that have either born with a very lofty soul or have worked on themselves for many, many years with study, meditation, and really, uplifting their whole being, their whole world, right? And that's the first way. The first way is achieving holiness on that level, right? Of continuously reaching up a higher stage and a higher stage, a higher stage. Like, it says about the Arizal, just the story, the Arizal, when he went to sleep on Shabbat, like he used to have like visions upon visions of like mystical realms. And, like we have no understanding of like who like the Arizal was or any of these tzaddikim were, and what they're like, what they were basically channeling. I mean, if we want to, they were basically channeling like the higher worlds within this world, but they were removed from this world. Like the Baba Sali, for example, they barely ate anything. They didn't take from the world. I was speaking yesterday, Rabbi Satma, he didn't sleep on a bed since the time that he was like bar mitzvah or something like that. He slept like on the floor, not because he didn't have money, not because he wanted to like, in other words, he didn't want to like have anything to do with this world. He was just removed from the world, and their whole life was learning, was prayer, was holiness, was, Shabbos, was, was that. It was just a removal from this world. However, most people are not on that level. Most people are hopefully.
Why do I have to sleep on the floor?
You don't have to sleep on the floor because you're not Rabbi Yov. You're not Rabbi Yov.
It's not that times.
It's not that time.
Be holy and use money and use chair and use great house and be holy.
You could tell that to Rabbi Yov, right? To the Satmar Rebbe. I mean, like that's his level, right? You're right. There were great tzaddikim like that. Like Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin, the Ruzhner. He was called the Holy Ruzhner. And he had a palace, and he had white stallions, and he had like a golden carriage. That was his way of like elevating the world, serving God, but he was called the Holy Ruzhner. On the other hand, you have Reb Baruch of Mezabush, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, and Reb Baruch totally opposed that way. And he basically didn't have any money in his house. He lived in a shack, and every kopek that he got, he gave to charity. Never had a kopek in put in a draw, because that would show a lack of true belief in God. So there's different styles, different tzaddikim, different shorsh neshama, and different soul roots that had their specific mission of avoda in the world. The Satmar Rebbe, that was his. We have no understanding. Like people, I was just giving a class yesterday about like modern Zionism and the opposing to Zionism and the different groups, etc. We're talking about the Satmar approach and this and that. And it was like, one thing you have to know, so Satmar Rebbe was a tzaddik yesod olam. It was the tzaddik, the foundation of the world, mamish. Like he was somebody that was, holy of holies, right? So it's like, when people oppose and they have all types of ideologies, sometimes they could forget, like, okay, the tzaddikim had these kind of like these machloket, it went on this level. But sometimes we go down on this level, so people are like opposing, like who are you to talk about, like who the Satmar or who the Lubavitcher Rebbe is, or who this Rebbe is, or that. Like, we see the world like this. They were great tzaddikim. They saw the world like from up top, so we can't like, we don't have a say, so to speak, to argue on the ideology of a reputable, of a holy tzaddik like that. So I'm not saying that you did, but I'm just saying like that was his particular shita.
No, it's good to be anav. I don't know how to say it in English.
Humble.
But you don't have to be tzanua. I don't mean ani. People think tzanua is to be poverty. You are a great holy person.
No,
you are learning Torah, but you are living poverty. Wow. No, it's not like this today.
But Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chanina ben 100%. But Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says in the Gemara, in Brachot, it says Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says that in his merit the whole world was supported. He supported the whole world. In other words, it says tzaddik yisod olam, that tzaddik, the foundation of the world. All brachos come through the tzaddik, are channeled from the tzaddik, the foundation of the world, right? So the whole world is sustained through Chanina. It said, the Gemara says, Chanina, my son, Chanina beni, and Chanina, my son, all he eats for an entire week is kav charuvim. It's like a little bit of carobs. A whole carob, which, by the way, is just interesting. As a side note, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had carobs. Carobs means destruction, and charuv is destruction. And he was like davening basically for the destruction of a destructed world and destruction of the temple, and that was his great intention. But, anyways, so Rabbi Chanin ben Dosa, the whole world is sustained through him. He's channeling. Imagine that, channeling the whole world's. And, vitality, the whole world's life is channeled through him. So that's huge.
When people eat simply, things happen to them. I heard a Ger Tzedek that was in Rabbi Muyal house, and he said he was in Germany before he was a Ger Tzedek, and in the Pinya, in where he studied, they said, we are going to clean your body. We are going to eat dochan. Dochan is bird's food in all kinds of ways. In the second night, he dreamt lively, a rabbi. He dreamt lively a place. I have shivering. And he told us that after a few years, he met that rabbi in that place.
Wow.
And chazar b'tshuva.
Wow.
From eating dochan.
From eating simply. Yeah.
Simply, bird's food.
Yeah.
When you eat only one thing, you clean yourself.
Yeah, but carobs is hard to eat. I don't know if you've had carobs.
I love.
For a whole week, you eat carobs?
Sweet.
Carobs.
For 13 years in that cave.
Or Rabbi Shimon, but on Shabbat he had.
What did he get on Shabbos?
On Shabbos he had teinim. He had figs.
Talks about it, really?
The Zohar says that it turned into figs.
He talks about it.
Yeah, the Zohar says that. It was carobs during the week, and on Shabbos, which means we know that on Shabbos everything is elevated. There's no destruction on Shabbos. One is not supposed to mourn, or everything is fixed on Shabbos. Shabbos is the world of fixing, so there's no destruction, and therefore the Zohar says it was transformed to figs. So figs, what's figs? That's the Eitz HaChaim. Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, is the figs, right? Yeah. That's what the Gemara says, that Eve ate a fig. Fig, and that's what the Gemara says. Yeah. The Gemara just didn't want to tell us it was a fig because they didn't want us to think, oh, that's the tree. But basically, the Talmud says that it's a fig. So anyway, just coming back to the point. So there's the tzaddik who is basically constantly ascending up to the highest levels of holiness, of kedusha. Fine, but not everybody is there, or we should say, very few people are what? Not yet. Yeah, halavai, all of us. Ve'amech kulam tzadikim. God willing, yeah. But not everybody is there. So now we have the diametrically opposed. Right, the other coin, the other side of the coin that we said. It talks about the relationships that are forbidden, the illicit relationships, the animal things, and it says like the ways of Egypt you should not follow, you should not do. Right? You should not do. So who's that talking about? So it's talking about everybody. I mean, it's basically talking to us. We read that on Yom Kippur, afternoon. To basically say, so coming back to the point, on Yom Kippur, the Talmud says that a person should never think that they have reached a very high point, that they are holy, they're like removed from everything, and things cannot happen, right? And actually, for that reason, the Gemara says that there should always be something which is called yichud. There should always be like a door open. And King David is the one that made a certain enactment on that. Why? Because of his own son and daughter, which was from different wives, anyways, Amnon and Tamar, whatever it is, they had an illicit relation. His own, King David's own son and daughter, right? I mean, it wasn't from the same mother, but still, it's not allowed. Amnon loved Tamar, right?
Yes, it's the same father.
It's the same father. You're not allowed to have relations with the sister from the same, right? Of course not. So King David made a gzera of yichud. And the Chachamim made a further gzera of yichud, that it should not just be for somebody who's single or somebody who's married. It should be somebody that's also sin. Like, in other words, all those things are like, well, you're thinking, it can never happen to me. But yeah, you shouldn't think that it's not going to happen. Who are you? Right? A person should never trust themselves until the day of their death. It's just the Torah is just going very deeply into the human psyche and the psychology of who we are. Because bottom line, we're animals. But we're godly. We have a godly soul, yes. But on the other hand, we're animals. And if the animal isn't tended to, isn't trained,
doesn't look if it's a brother or
no.
If he becomes the lion of the group, she will be his wife.
Exactly.
And Maya in the lions.
Exactly. That's what an animal is, right? And you have humans that are walking on two, and they're basically animals as well. And we just see like this kind of like fall. Like when a person, and this is the whole point of the parsha. I don't want to like bring anybody like down with talking about this, but there's like such a fall of morality, very steady. I don't know even when it started, when to track it. There always is, but it's like almost like when certain borders are let go, then it just, there's no end to where it could drop, to how far it could just go.
So Judaism is keeping you right.
100%. Now, just think about this. Actually, maybe 80 years ago, 100 years ago, women went to the beach with their complete like long dress and everything. Men went with hats. I'm not right. Everybody. Men wear shirts, hat and like hats. The whole everywhere that they went, it was like crazy.
Not even 8, it's even 60.
60 years ago, even. You know, there you go. Right, and then yeah, exactly. So now think about it. Within 60 years, you're saying 60 years now. We've like just like, okay, so we take this thing off, and then this thing, and then this thing, and then there's no end. There's no end to how far down you could actually drop, because the moment that you let like the dam, the dam, you let the that stoppage over there go, and it's just gonna keep on going.
Save me from the pit.
What?
Save me from the pit.
Exactly. It will just go all the way down to the pit. It will just.
Slippery slope.
It's a very slippery slope, and go all the way down. It's actually called Tehom Rabbah. Tehom Rabbah is like the abyss, which is basically the 50th gate of impurity. And that 50th gate is something that the Egyptians were very, very close to. The Or HaChaim tells us, the Holy Or HaChaim HaKadosh, by the way, Or HaChaim HaKadosh tells us that in his day, he mentions, I don't know if he said for sure they're in the 50, but very possible that we're in the 50. But he says in his day, which was like around the mid 1600s. So, yeah. But he said, at the same time, even though it could be that we're in that abyss, the 50th, Shar Nun, right? We could still be saved. We could still be redeemed. Why? Because we now have the Torah. Back then, they did not have the Torah, and therefore 49 gates and one more, it would have been, that's it, all like obliterated, because that abyss is an endless abyss, and somebody gets stuck there. It's almost like if you go snorkeling or scuba diving, and you get stuck like very deep down underneath like a cavern or whatever it is, nobody's coming to get you. It's like that's it.
Like you went down there, so
you're down. Yeah, once you reach that certain place, that place is just a place that it's impossible to come back from. So the Or HaChaim actually tells us that nowadays we could still come back from the 50th gate because we have the Torah. So the Torah, that light of Torah, basically that light of tshuva, that's like, the incredible light of Torah, that a person could be in the 50th gate and still want to connect to God. They could have a redemption. They could have they could have a gula, right? There's no yeush. There's nothing that is impossible. A person could always come back, even on the 50th gate. So that slippery slope over there is what the Torah is telling us, and what we do on Yom Kippur, in the afternoon of Yom Kippur, after going through almost 20 hours of fasting, right, etc., wearing white, the whole deal, and we read about these illicit relations, and the Torah is telling us that just make sure to know that you are an animal. Yes, you're dressed like an angel right now, but you have that animalistic self. And you have to remember that holiness doesn't just mean when you're in shul, when you are fasting, when you're cleaving onto like the highest levels. Holiness is also very, very simple. And this is the point. Holiness is when a person does not do something that they are not supposed to be doing. When they keep to that border, they keep the border. It sounds very simple. You're like, and compared to Nadav and Avihu, they're like basking and glowing in the highest light, whatever it is. And you say to a person, yeah, just don't look over there, or just don't do this, or just don't think that. You have an issue. Don't say that. You have an issue, which is like, seems like, oh, that's disgusting. How could you think that, or how could you be doing those things? But the Torah is saying, yeah, but just don't do that. If you don't do that and you step away even for 1 second from not doing that, not looking there, not thinking that, then you've just become holy, because you've become separated from that lowliness. And that's also holiness. There's a holiness here and the holiness here. The two opposite types of holiness. Or not opposite, right? They look like they're opposite, but they're the same sort of extreme of a person is containing themselves to do something for God, basically, to overcome their own self. And like it says in the tzaddikim say that in our generation, that in the previous generations they didn't have the same obstacles that we have in our generation, and therefore they say that in our generation, like when a person just contains themselves from not doing one wrong thing, then that has such a great nachat ruach. It has such a great delight up above by God, more than from the previous generations, that people were on this unbelievable high level. A person just sacrifices like a small thing, not having an extra, an extra cupcake.
It's all at our fingertips now. Like,
It's all everything.
Whatever our sickest part wants to do, like, find it.
Exactly. Instant. Exactly. And it's so scary. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's mamish scary. We are living in, and again, thinking about who little kids actually idolize. It's crazy who little kids idolize. They idolize, celebrities that have no morals, that have no, nothing decent. It's crazy, and they grow up like watching that. It's on TV. It's all over. It's on the billboards. It's on social media. It's like.
Are you too young to remember when O.J. Simpson was the idol?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The kids had
Of course.
Picture. It was full length. Then he was a football player, and then he killed his wife. And he also killed a Jewish boy, but that's just a side. But I just remember the picture because it was full.
Yeah.
It was life-size picture because they were crazy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was a celebrity. There you go. So it's like
football. But
it's like we idolize these people, and who are completely
He's a
empty.
murderer, empty. What empty?
The opposite, exactly. He was crazy, and and like drug addicts and alcoholics and whatever addicts else that they are. So, anyways, so the point is that from a person just removing themselves from not doing something wrong, even though it seems like so trivial, so like simple, it is a step of holiness. It's still holiness.
So instead of wanting to learn Shulchan Aruch, I want to learn all the mitzvahs of not doing. I will learn all the mitzvahs of not doing. I'm great.
But you have to learn also the positives, because you channel down light by positive.
First of all, I will learn the not, the holy, to be holy, then I will learn the right.
Right. So the Maharal actually of Prague says we have 365, right? Shasa. The Maharal says that what's Shasa? Why 365? Because we have 365 days of the year, which is corresponding to the sun. And he explains that the don't do's, the negative don't do, relates to the sun, and relates to the idea of a person like containing themselves from not doing something wrong, and why the sun? Because people used to bow down to the sun. People used to worship the sun. And 365 days of the year, whereas 248 are the limbs. It's basically the idea of the positive. So the negative is when a person like holds themselves back, then they are actually drawing down a higher light by not doing something wrong. They're drawing down a higher light from not doing something wrong. That's what Chassidus says. But by doing
365 lost taxes and 248.
Yeah. So when a person does something positive, you draw down a light that Chassidus says it's a light which is within the world. But when a person does not holds themselves back from doing something negative, then they draw down the light which is Soviv Kolam, which surrounds the world.
We need to learn what's negative.
Yeah.
By not do this, not do this. Because
100%.
maybe we're doing it like babies,
Yeah. 100%.
We need to learn what not to do. After that, we have time to learn what to do all the life. But first of all, what not to do.
Yeah, for sure. And by doing that, you draw down a higher light. So it says, Zeh Shmi Le'olam, וזה זכרי לדור ודור. זה שמי, says shmi is with yud k, equals shmi equals shasa. Shmi shin mem yud hey is shasa, is 365.
Shemi.
The verse says in Isaiah, Ze shmi leolam, ze zichri ledor dor. And this is my remembrance for generation to generation. So the Zohar says, Ze shmi leolam, that my name, when we include the Yud K of God's name within the Shmi, Shem, Mem, Yud, and then another Yud K, we've got Shasa, right? We have 365. And then Ze zichri with Vav K, we have 248. So, in my remembrance, so Hasidus explains, Ze Shmi, that my name, in other words, the don't do's are God's name. We connect to God's name, whereas the do's, Ze zichri, we connect to God's doing, that connects to the lower name of God, which is Vav K. The higher name of God, Yud K, which is basically hidden, is associated with the don't do's. So when a person holds themselves back from not doing, they are connecting to a higher light. They're connecting to the Yud K of God's name.
How many not to do?
365.
I thought it's the last one. Whoa.
Yeah, but most of them aren't relevant to us. Some of them for Kahan and some are for a king.
Or maybe anyhow we are not doing them also because
Yes, no, that is no, that is not relevant.
Some of them are, yeah.
Okay, I need
But
to
a lot,
It's
most of them are
so
not
none of them
relevant.
are not
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, and also parts of the
Some are from men,
248.
some are for women.
For me, to
Yeah,
learn
yeah,
first.
yeah.
I love to learn fast things.
Well, okay. There's a lot to learn. That's why we have a lifetime. So,
Okay.
so anyways, so that's, I just want to just bring out this point. That's like, I feel like the message, it's a very strong, like kind of like message that is like being broadcasted to us this week. And again, on Yom Kippur as well, every Yom Kippur, is that a person is made as a dual personality, two personalities. That's what we are. Don't think that's crazy. If you do have that, you're not crazy. You're a human. That's what it means to be human. And you have a godly soul which wants to, like Nadav and Avihu, and you've got an animal soul that wants to be like the ways of Egypt, right? If you let it. But both of them need to recognize that it's about Hashem.
But if there is a person who was born 53 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't look for the animal thing,
Right.
so what? He got a godly animal body?
Well,
Because there is dom.
Yeah. So the godly, so the Tanya says that the godly soul could become so muted, right? That it just feels just the animal soul.
Again, what's muted?
Muted. The godly soul becomes so mute. Like we turn off the sound. Like you can't hear the godly soul because it's just not, it's not used, basically.
No, I said the opposite.
What did you say?
And the person is not doing Sdom, doesn't have in his mind.
But doesn't have. Okay.
He's Shulchan Aruch walking by foot.
Oh, okay.
So it's the godly unmute. It's the animal mute.
So they still have the animal soul there. Yeah, it's mute. That's so over there. Actually, Tanya says that the animal soul is kind of like just sleeping a little bit. Good. But it doesn't mean unless a person is a tzaddik that they've transformed their animal soul. It doesn't mean that they're yet a tzaddik, that they're yet a holy person.
No, okay. Because there are people who are walking who are walking by the 10 commandments, and they're okay.
But it doesn't mean that everything's okay. And I'm sorry, I don't want to like bring up like not such nice things to talk about. But there are situations you have learned individuals, again, rabbis, priests, whatever it is. I mean, lavdil, but and like, you know, and all types of situations happen. Like why? Like what's going on? So that's the thing. Rabbi Yochanan was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years. And he left everything. Kohen Gadol, you know what that means? Kohen Gadol went into the Holy of the Holies for 80 years, and he left everything. He became a heretic. He opposed the whole thing. He killed all the great scholars of his generation. Killed them, right? After being a high priest. Yeah,
Madness.
yeah, probably. I mean, there was a, who knows what it is? But basically, again, we can't trust ourselves. So that's the point. The point is a person can be very learned, but the animal soul is just a little bit muted. Or a person could, right? It could be the other way, that the godly soul is muted and it could wake up any second and just come back to be a Baal Tshuva, and just like have a fiery love for God, and then transform their animal self, something that they were for so many years is now like up, just totally transformed, right? Or it could be the other way, that the animal soul is muted, and then all of a sudden the animal comes out, and then, God forbid, and that's of course a very sad situation. That So, anyways, so it's very important to be aware, and the Torah is telling us to be aware, and the Torah again is telling us that on Yom Kippur, telling us that listen, this is your makeup. You're human. Just be aware of it. There's borders. Borders are very important, because if you think that you don't need borders, I'm different, I don't need borders, okay, well then it's a slippery slope. But if you stick to the borders, then it's going to help you. The borders are there for you. Asu siyag la Torah. You're making like a fence of the Torah. They're helping you to become holy. It doesn't mean that you're holy, mamish, like the great, like nothing, but you become a little more removed because of the siyag of the Torah. Again, in a situation that the yichud or whatever it is, so the door has to stay open, or in a situation like this, so then meat and milk, whatever on the table, so then you have to put down a thing, and why there has to be like a certain like fence, and that fence helps to raise us up. So the Torah is basically is safeguarding us from making from falling down. So, and to ultimately become holy. That's what holiness is. We're raising ourselves higher. And by the way, holiness also relates to the feet. It says if a person is so poor, God forbid, that can't afford shoes, says you have to make sure he has to buy shoes, even in a way sometimes even before food. Because shoes, why? So it's explained that shoes are what a person walks on. So a person could walk on like on the earth, right? And it sounds like all nice, walking on earth, blah blah blah. But it really means like you're walking on like the physicality and materialism. You have to be uplifted from physicality. You have to wear shoes and raise you up from physicality. That's actually how we went out of Egypt. It says makelchem b'idechem na'alechem. You have to wear your sandals, right? And mutnechem chagurim. You have to wear a girdle, around you. Those are the three requirements. So each one of them is important. The girdle is emunah.
Sandals and
the girdle, the belt basically. They wore like a belt over themselves. Yeah, so it says the belt is about emunah. And
shoes.
So the shoes is exactly what is about physicality, raising ourselves up above physicality.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
Could you just say that it's raised up a bit?
We raise ourselves up from the world. That's what shoes are. Yeah, we raise. So that basically relates to holiness.
That's why all the youngest are going 20 centimeters. They are up way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully. What? Yeah, and then the staff, and then it says that the staff relates to sometimes we have to like a staff is like a stick. Sometimes we have to hit ourselves in order to like move ourselves up.
Yes,
You know,
I thought
sometimes.
something else. You have to walk up, so you need something to help you to walk up.
Yeah, but the staff is sometimes you have to. It says shiftecha makel. A makel is usually a. Sometimes you have to like educate yourself. Like we have to educate ourselves.
Always.
Not sometimes, always. But sometimes you have to use like a little bit of a stick to ourselves. You know, in a good way.
I went hiking this week, and I was hoping to have a stick. I was talking to my parents while I was doing that. Oh, I wish I had a stick. There's a man around Spa that he gives away these almond trees.
Yeah, that's fun.
Bamboo. You need a bamboo.
So anyway, so that's the message. Yeah.
Is it true that there is tuma if you walk barefoot? Like you can.
No, I wouldn't call it tuma. I wouldn't call it no.
The mom was saying, put shoes on or at least socks.
Right, but again, there's a very deep idea, to walk with shoes. I mean, in your house is one thing, but I'm saying to walk outside without shoes is not exactly,
The beach,
beach may be a little different, grass. Yeah, but I'm saying to not to have shoes, to walk without shoes, like represents basically something like you're a part of the earth, like your physicality, and we want to be kadosh, we want to be removed, we want to be uplifted, right? Even a little bit. That's what shoes are.
He was outside.
That's for avodah zarah. Exactly. They were barefoot. Yeah, very good. Very good. Avram, the angels, they were barefoot. He had them washed because that's a very good point. And the only time that we take off our shoes is in the temple, right? There was the removal of that because we want to touch holiness. So that's the opposite extreme of that.
The angels needed to go barefoot to get connected, to be
in the earth. Yeah.
They needed it.
I'm going to practice now using my
okay. All right, everybody. So blessings and